9, and now we're going to take a look at Don Elder Circa 2004. Well, I don't have the mustache. I don't quite have as much hair as I used to have, but still kind of the same resemblance, I hope. And it's a real pleasure for me to be speaking to all of you members of the class of 1979 at Vinton High School. I actually dressed for a particular reason today. Some of you may remember this sports coat. I got it back in 1976 during the height of the disco era when plaid was all the rage. And never throw anything away is my motto, so I've still got it and thought for old time's sake that I would wear it for you kids today. My students here in Portales, New Mexico got a good laugh out of it, but it was worth it. I am in Portales, New Mexico. I'm on the campus of Eastern New Mexico University. I'm a professor here. I'm actually the chair of the History, Humanities, and Philosophy Department. Doesn't really say much for the university that they put a person like me in charge of all that authority, but this is where I've been since 1995. Got my PhD from the University of California back in 1989, taught at a college in Southern California until '85, and I've been here ever since. Still married. My wife Janine and I will be celebrating our 30th anniversary here in about a month and a half, and it's really a scary thought that 30 years I've been married. My goodness, where have the years gone? I have two sons. Some of you may actually still have been coming back to Vinton when my older son Cam was born, and I brought along a picture of him. This was Cam, his senior year of high school. Following in his dad's footsteps with the whole basketball thing. And he is now just turned 24, just got his master's degree in sports administration and trying to get a job with a Division I sports program. And I have a younger son. His name is Brian. He will be a senior in high school. More of the football player than his older brother was. And here is a picture of the four of us taken a couple of years ago when my son Cam got his regular bachelor's degree. So that's kind of a brief rundown of what I've been doing for the last 25 years. Don't know if it's really interesting to you people or not, but I actually do get back to Iowa on a regular basis. My mother-in-law and my father-in-law still live out in western Iowa, and at Christmas time and at least once during the summer, we go up and visit the homestead out there. I also go back to Iowa for a different reason. For those of you that have gone to college, you know that professors are expected to kind of write stuff to get promoted, and I've written a few books. Some of them having to do with Iowa. This was one of my first books that was published back in 1998. Young man from Iowa who went off to fight in the Civil War at the age of 21, lived to come back and tell about it later. And then last summer, this was published by the University of Iowa Press. The two people in the upper corner were a husband and wife from southeastern Iowa, and they wrote each other during the course of the Civil War. I was lucky enough to find their correspondence and turn it into a book, and I'm actually working on another book right now that's based in the state of Iowa. So this summer I'll be back in Iowa killing two birds with one stone, seeing my relatives and doing some more research. I have nothing but fond memories of the class of 1979 when Kevin Simnocker got a hold of me. Just a whole sea of names came flooding back to me. I've got great stories, great memories. Some of you may not have great memories of me. I'm thinking of kids like John Peterson, who had the misfortune of being a distance runner and had me make him run lap after lap after lap when he was in high school all 3 years. But great stories from a lot of different people. I'll never forget Kevin Schlarbaum. Kevin took one of my courses. I taught one class in sociology every year, and we were talking about a little bit about the differences between societies, and I was talking about economic differences, and I was talking about barter and subsistence, and I said, okay, class, what's the difference between barter and subsistence? And Kevin raised his hand, and Kevin had never raised his hand in that class before until I called on Kevin, and he said, 5 letters. Well, I kind of had to end class on that point because there was no point in carrying on. He was absolutely correct, but it wasn't where my mind was, so just had to leave the class for that day. Probably my favorite class of '79 story involves Tom Fisher or Bob Burris. Your class actually gave me the 2 championships that I won during my coaching years in Vinton. I won the junior high championship the first year I coached in baseball. We won 11-1. And the key game was when we had to play Linmar, the only team that had beaten us during the season. And the key play of the game was a pickoff at second base where the kid from Linmar came back into the base, and Tom clearly pushed the kid off the base as he was tagging him, and then applied the tag, and the umpire called him out, and the kid just screamed bloody murder that he'd been pushed off the base. And so Tom was asked by the umpire, the umpire literally asked Tom, did you push him off the base? And with the most cherubic, innocent expression, Tom said, oh no, I didn't do that. I could tell he was lying. I could see he'd pushed him off the base, and I was sitting next to somebody on the bench. I think it might have actually been Chris Young from a year behind you. And I said, how can he lie with a straight face like that? And Chris said, it's easy, his dad's a lawyer. My other story, Bob Burris, we're playing South Taman basketball. The other championship, by the way, was track when I was the sophomore track coach, and we had freshmen and sophomores running on the team. And I'll never forget, Mike Gustafson came from 6th place to 1st place in the mile relay in his last lap, beat a kid from Tipton by 1 step. We won the championship. But in basketball, Bob Burris, we're playing South Taman, and Bob gets called for a foul that he didn't think he committed. Just blows up, as Bob was capable of doing. Starts yelling at the refs. They tee him up, and I take Bob out of the game and sit him down. And about 3 minutes later, he looks over at me and says, Coach, that probably wasn't a smart thing to do, was it? And I said, no, Bob, probably wasn't. And about 3 minutes later, he says, you think after the game I should say something to the refs? And I said, well, Bob, it's up to you, but I think that'd be a nice gesture. So he goes up, and after the game I can see him talking to the refs, and he's looking very abashed, and telling them he's sorry and everything. So the next day in practice, I'm talking to the basketball team and really making a big deal about how this is sportsmanship. This is what I'm striving for. That was so big of Bob to humble himself and to admit he was wrong, and apologize. And then I pause for dramatic effect, and then I hear Burris saying in the back of the crowd, I had my fingers crossed. Well, you gave me a lot of great memories like that, and you gave me one great honor. I've been lucky enough to win some awards in my life. I'm actually a broadcaster now, too. For some of you remember when cable came to Vinton and how I did the games, the Vinton football games and some baseball games. I actually broadcast all of Eastern New Mexico's games now, and won a few awards in that and teaching. But you gave me my first award. You dedicated the annual to me back in 1979, and that is still sitting on my mantle back home here in Portales, New Mexico. That meant the world to me, and it really is one of the high points of my life. So it's a great opportunity for me to talk to you there, celebrating your 25th anniversary, and I hope in 25 years, when you have your 50th anniversary, you ask me to speak again, and I hope I'm still here to speak. And I guarantee, if you do ask me, I'll still have the sports coat. I'll wear it for you. Have a great reunion.